Liberal theory, rooted in the principles of individual freedom, democracy, and market economy, has been a dominant political and philosophical framework in modern times. While it offers numerous advantages and has significantly shaped contemporary societies, it also faces criticism and has certain pitfalls. Key pitfalls of liberal theory. 1. Economic inequality, A. Wealth disparity, concentration of wealth. Critics argue that liberal economic policies, such as free markets and minimal government intervention, often lead to significant wealth disparity. The rich tend to get richer, while the poor may not see substantial improvement in their economic conditions. Impact on social mobility. Economic inequality can hinder social mobility, making it difficult for individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to improve their quality of life. B. Insufficient welfare support. Underfunded social programs. Liberal theory's emphasis on limited government intervention can result in underfunded social welfare programs, leaving vulnerable populations without adequate support. Health and education access. Limited state involvement may lead to inequities in access to essential services like healthcare and education. 2. Market failures, monopolies and oligopolies. Lack of competition. Free market economies can sometimes lead to monopolies and oligopolies, where a few entities dominate the market, reducing competition and leading to higher prices and lower quality of goods and services. Market dominance. Large corporations may engage in anti-competitive practices, stifling innovation and entrepreneurship. B. Negative externalities. Environmental degradation. Critics argue that liberal theory often fails to account for negative externalities, such as environmental damage or public health risks, associated with private enterprise and industrial activities. Resource exploitation. Free markets may promote the overexploitation of natural resources, leading to long-term environmental and economic consequences. 3. Social fragmentation. A. Individualism. Over-community erosion of social bonds. The emphasis on individualism can lead to a weakening of community bonds and social cohesion, as personal freedoms and individual rights are prioritized over collective well-being. Social isolation. Increased individualism may contribute to feelings of social isolation and loneliness. B. Cultural homogenization. Loss of diversity. Critics argue that liberal theory, especially in its neoliberal form, can promote cultural homogenization and the erosion of local traditions and identities in favor of globalized, market-driven cultures. Standardization. The spread of liberal ideals may lead to the standardization of lifestyles and reduction of cultural diversity. 4. Democratic challenges. A. Influence of money in politics campaign financing. Liberal democracies often face issues related to campaign financing and the influence of wealthy donors and interest groups on political processes and policy decisions. Corruption and lobbying. The potential for corruption and the disproportionate influence of corporate lobbying can undermine democratic institutions and public trust. B. Polarization and populism. Political polarization. The emphasis on individual rights and freedoms can sometimes lead to increased political polarization, with conflicting interests and ideologies becoming deeply entrenched. Rise of populism. Economic inequalities and perceived injustices in liberal democracies can fuel populist movements that challenge established institutions and democratic norms. 5. Globalization and inequality. A. Global economic inequality disparities between nations. Critics argue that liberal economic policies can exacerbate global inequalities, with wealth and opportunities concentrated in developed nations, while developing countries may struggle to benefit from globalization. Exploitation of labor. Global supply chains and outsourcing can lead to the exploitation of labor in developing countries, where workers may lack adequate protections and rights. B. Cultural imperialism. Western dominance. The spread of liberal ideals and market economies is sometimes seen as a form of cultural imperialism, imposing Western values and systems on diverse cultures and societies. Loss of sovereignty. Developing nations may experience a loss of sovereignty and control over their own economic policies and cultural practices. 6. Universalism versus cultural relativism. Tension between universal rights and local traditions. Universalist approach. Liberal theory typically advocates for universal human rights and values, which can conflict with local traditions, customs, and cultural practices. Cultural sensitivity. Critics argue that a more culturally sensitive approach is needed, recognizing the validity and importance of diverse cultural perspectives. B. Challenges in implementation. Context-specific solutions. Imposing universal solutions may not always be effective or appropriate, as they may not take into account the specific cultural, social, and economic contexts of different nations and communities.